Hello, everybody. Happy October 17th/17th day of Halloween. I have a little something different. I'm going to try some narration. I'm going to go on Reddit and see if I can find some true scary stories for you guys. I'm going to start this video off by telling you guys a ghost experience I had myself. I would say back when I was like 13, 14 years old. I think it was 10th grade. I guess I'll start off with saying that we moved around a lot when I was a child. I've always really been into creepy and scary stuff. I remember when I was in elementary school, me and my friends would tell each other scary stories. We'd do like ghosts in the graveyard. We would pretend that we were dead, so on and so forth. Well, I've always wanted to see something because of that. And in 2010, we were hoping it was our final move, but obviously that didn't work. But so we got this house. I think we had to have been there for at least 6 months, and like nothing really off the wall was scary. Like sometimes I got creepy vibes, so like I told my dad about it, and he's like, "Oh, it's nothing, blah blah blah." Well, it turns out that those creepy vibes were not nothing. My mom was having a garage sale, and her friend is a Wiccan, so she brought some of her books to sell at my mom's garage sale. And my dad picked up the book and jokingly read off a spell to bring fortune to our house. And he felt kind of creeped out halfway through the spell, so he put the book down and didn't finish it. Now, that's one of the things that you want to not do if you read off the spell, and even if you believe it, you need to finish the spell, because I don't know why. I've never really researched it, but anyway, so he put the book down, and around that time was when I started getting the creepy vibes. It was like, I don't know how to explain it. I just didn't want to be alone. I was in my bedroom, and like I didn't even want to sleep in my room anymore. And like at that point, I had never had an issue sleeping in my room alone. I remember one time, we had this really giant Bible. So I grabbed that, 2 other small Bibles, 3 Book of Mormons, and I slept with them in this armchair in the corner of the room so that nothing could come at me. Now that looking back, like that was a little excessive. I don't think that would have really done anything. But I mean, I was a kid. I was scared. That was my way of protecting myself, I guess. Yeah, I think she did pass away in 2010. This was my childhood cat. My dad said that he would like get out of his bed and he would feel like she used to like hide under the bed, and if you like put your foot down when you're getting out of bed, she would grab it. He said that he kept feeling that, and that I think was just her staying around, because I've heard that your pets stay around after they die, just to keep an eye on you, I guess. And then I remember one time, I think it was the same night that I slept in the corner, I heard a whole bunch of boxes fall in the garage, and like that was creepy. And I want to remind you guys that like I had no idea that my dad had read off the spell. I learned couple years after that he was reading the spell. So yeah, that was kind of creepy. I was like, I don't want you guys to think that I was like some spoiled brat kid. It had an extension built on prior to us moving in. So we technically had like 2 living rooms. One was a sitting area, the other one was a living room. But my mom, my dad, and someone else were discussing religion. And me, I think my brother was in there. And then my mom's friend. We're in the other living room watching a movie. All of a sudden we hear this loud bang. And that's a box slamming against the wall. No one was there. No one was in the kitchen. There was no reason for the box to fly and hit the wall. Like, that was really scary. After that, my dad contacted the ghost hunters. I didn't know about this either. But he contacted the ghost hunters. They said they were going to come out and check it out. Once they said they were going to come check it out, all of the activity around the house stopped. So, I just think that's weird. Because, like, if my dad was making it up, I don't think that he would have stopped for the ghost hunters. You know what I mean? Like, if the ghost hunters were going to come over, then, you know, they were either going to find something or they were going to not find something. So the fact that my dad went and he told them, never mind, it doesn't matter because it's all the activity stopped, like, that had to have been something. So, well, that was my story. Let me see if I can find anything else. So this one was posted on True Scary Stories by _jazz. It's titled Weirdo Man in a Bush. This happened this summer around the 4th of July. My family has a camper in rural Wisconsin. Many of my friends also have campers in the same campground. One night, about 7 of us, ages 11 to 16, all decided to cram into a single golf cart and ride along some creepy trails in the woods. It was getting pretty late, past 10 o'clock, so it was pitch black outside. The gold cart had a headlight and a few of us brought flashlights, but other than that, we couldn't see a thing. We got quite deep in the woods at one point, and being the oldest of the group, I suggested we start heading back. I just got a bad feeling in my gut and couldn't shake it. I believe my brother was driving the cart, who was 12 by the way, and I was really stupid for letting him drive. Anyway, he wanted to keep going and ignored me. By this point, some of my friends were fooling around, jumping off the sides of the cart and stuff. Me and another girl were the only ones sitting on the back of the cart at this point, when we see a tall man jump out from behind a large bush. He had a dirty baseball cap, so we couldn't really see his face very well, and it was also super dark. My heart dropped to the pit of my stomach when I saw him. No one else heard this but me. He said in a deep smoker's voice, "You kids want to make some money? Weird, right?" Anyway, my friend and I looked at each other in shock. We didn't know what to do. She says she didn't hear him, but I know for sure that's what he said. I immediately tell everyone to get back on the cart and that we are heading back. We didn't see him again, but it still creeps me out. What were his intentions? Why would he be in the middle of the woods? Creepy. This story is titled Home Alone by Wicked Wyvern. Alright, let me set up some backstory first. This story takes place about 10 years ago in 2008-2009 school year. I was in 7th grade. My family had just moved to Indiana into this newly built complex of houses. It was my mother, 4 siblings, and I. Anyway, to the story. One day during the week, I was sick and had to be picked up from school early. So I was just laying in my room while my mom cleaned up around the house. When it came time to pick my younger brother up from preschool, my mom asked if I wanted to go with her, and I refused, not feeling up to the task. My mother shrugged and headed out, leaving me alone. As a child, I always loved to write stories, and this is what I was doing when I first heard it. It had been about half an hour since my mom left when I heard a squeaking sound coming from my brother's room next door. I hadn't heard anyone come inside, so I was confused. I heard it again. It sounded like someone was bouncing on a bed. However, my 2 brothers that shared that room had a bunk bed. I got up and groaned, sliding down the hall to their bedroom. The door was open, and of course, there was no one there. I went back to my room and lay in bed for about 10 minutes before I heard the cupboard door slam in the kitchen. I hopped up and rushed in to see a single bag of Doritos laying almost perfectly in the center of the kitchen. This is when I got an unexplainable bad feeling and I went outside. Even then, I was uncomfortable and I had to sit across the street and sit on the curb until 2 of my siblings got off the school bus before I could handle going back inside. This was not the only experience I had in that house. Once my brother, mother, and I were up late watching TV, and for some reason it kept getting turned down to 0. At another time, I got up in the middle of the night to use the restroom, and when returning to the room I shared with one of my brothers, I saw a small female form at the foot of his bed, and I jumped from my bed to his to grab him, and the figure disappeared, as well as having many nightmares while we were there. I feel like some of these can be explained away as a child's imagination, but they still make me uncomfortable to this day. Luckily, we didn't live there long. What do you guys think? Like I said, the house was newly built and we were the first tenants of this particular house. This one is titled Mom's Encounter with the Devil by Shuggy Boogie. In my culture, we believe that however you imagine the devil to look like is how he will appear to you. Some people see him as a very handsome man, while others see him as red-skinned demon. One thing that he will always have is the leg of a goat and the leg of a bird. The reason I mention this is because of how he appeared to my mom. We have a game called Loteria, which is basically like bingo, except it has pictures. Examples: El Gallo, a picture of a rooster; El Nopal, picture of a cactus; and of course, El Diablo, picture of the devil. When my mom was young, she spent almost every day at her grandmother's house. She was there one day with one of her cousins. They were playing, when suddenly they see a man dressed as a devil standing outside the window. Immediately they start laughing, thinking it's my mom's brother dressed up and trying to scare them. They start telling him to stop because he's scaring them, and they're going to tell his mom if he doesn't stop. At this, the devil grabbed his tail and, still staring at my mother and her cousin, starts smiling while twirling his tail. My mother and her cousin had enough and ran back to my grandmother's house. See that my uncle, the one they thought was dressed up to scare them, is there. They realize at this point it couldn't have been him, and to this day have no idea if it was prank or if it was actually the devil himself. In the comments of that story is Poithedda. So here in Phoenix, there is a half man, half goat, supposedly. He's a handsome man who goes to the party scene. He goes to bars, clubs, and places where people party. He dances with women, and they are good until they look down and notice that he has hooves for feet. Usually everyone will clear out of the club or bar. I heard at least 20 different stories from different people over the past 30 years. My uncle, friends of friends that have spotted him. The last I heard, my friend told me he was taking his grandmother to a casino, and the thing ran right next to their car going 55 miles an hour. That's the last sighting I heard about. Then again, I quit drinking around the same time, so who knows if he's still out there. My friend told me one of her relatives were partying with the beast alone in the desert, and when she noticed his feet were blacked out and woke up hours later butt naked in the desert alone. The next one is by Shuggy Boogie again, called Grandfather's Ghost Car Experience. This one is a story my mom and grandfather still tell us, and still cannot explain how it happened. I personally have a terrible memory, so I can't remember this story accurately, but once I go see my grandfather again, I'll ask him about it. When my grandpa was younger, he was a commercial truck driver. He has always been a really careful driver, and all his friends knew this. Sometimes he'd meet up with friends from work, and they would all drive together to their destination. One night, he and a friend were driving down the highway. It was extremely dark, the only light coming from the headlights of the trucks. My grandpa was driving in front of his friend when he noticed an all-black, from what he could see, vehicle approaching fast from behind them. He slows to let the guy pass them. The black car gets in front of him and slows down, which, in case some of you don't know, is extremely dangerous, as a big truck carrying cargo can't stop or slow down as quickly as a small car or any other normal vehicle due to all the extra weight. After a while, my grandpa attempts to pass the black car, but he moves next to the lane over. The car cuts him off. He tries going back to the right lane, only to be cut off again. Finally, the black car gets into the left lane. This was a 2-lane highway and slows. My grandpa looks over to see a man and says he could see that this man wasn't normal. He felt like this man was evil. My grandpa grabbed a rosary he kept on him and held it out to the man, then shouted that he wasn't afraid of him and that God was stronger than he would ever be. At this, the man glared at my grandpa, and his car swerved off the highway and disappeared as it veered into the grass along the side of the highway. My grandpa's friend came over the radio asking if my grandpa was okay, if he needed to stop to nap, because he could notice my grandpa swerving from the right to the left. My grandpa told him about the black car, but his friend insisted there was no such car, and it was just them on the road. Okay, so that's my first shot at narration. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I am going to stop for now because my voice is not used to it, and I keep coughing. So if you guys enjoyed it, let me know in the comments below, and I will do another video like this. See you next time.